Humongous shoutouts to Fastravel Games and Neat Corporations for supplying Young Falcon with the review code for Budget Cuts 2 Mission Insolvency. Now on with the review. Budget Cuts 2 is the long-awaited sequel to the PC VR smash hit Budget Cuts 1. In this stealthy puzzler, you play as a human worker who escapes the clutches of the evil corporate robots who are trying to control humanity. You join the resistance and work with your team as you try to take down these robotic overlords from their evil, nefarious ways. A simple hook for a simple game, Budget Cuts 2 does a very good job of keeping the story pretty lighthearted and funny. I found the humor to be pretty funny, and I definitely was laughing at a bunch of the jokes that were on display, and I also liked how the humor worked its way into the gameplay more times than not. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's pretty lighthearted in tone, so I'd give it a thumbs up. Budget Cuts 2 did actually a lot of things well. It takes everything good with the first game and further fleshes things out, adding new weapons, enemies, and puzzles to make a unique and satisfying stealth experience. Truth be told, I wasn't the biggest fan of Budget Cuts 1. I felt the experience was a bit on the short side and lacking replayable content. However, with the sequel, I see and feel many of the game's improvements. For starters, the level design is infinitely more varied than the cramped office spaces. No more are those. Well, they're still kind of here, but instead in its place we also have trains, train stations, skyscrapers, and yes, they even do keep in the good old office spaces. Robots are also much more threatening than previously. They really emphasize the stealth aspect of the game, as you don't want to encounter some of the new types they've offered, like the riot shield enemies. Getting caught by them usually results in an explosive death. One thing I definitely enjoy about the gameplay mechanics presented here is how, again, it really emphasizes stealth. Using your sharp objects and plunging them into the robotic enemies will cause those things to break, so you can't keep reusing them over and over again like in the first game, which honestly eliminated all sense of difficulty. Here, you have to carefully plan out your shots, know when you want to use distractions or when you want to take out an enemy in order to make your way through the game's levels. And speaking of the game's level, I feel like the level design needs all the love it can get. It does a really standout job of giving the player plenty of nook and crannies for you to hide in. From cramped vents to rooftops to balconies on skyscrapers, there's tons of places for you to get your sneak on. The game's locomotion is also really easygoing for all levels of VR play. Just like the first game, you use your teleport gun to move around the environment, which also gives you a window into where exactly you're gonna land before you pull the trigger. You come equipped with your classic knives, scissors, mugs, and yes, even a bow and arrow. Or if the going gets tough, just start throwing anything that's laying around the area so you can either dismantle or distract the robotic oppression that tries to take you out. The core gameplay and controls are very fluid and responsive. It's great fun slinking around from room to room, doing all you can to avoid getting spotted, or one of my favorite parts of the game, trying to do your best to blend into a train station dominated by robots that aren't very fond of humans. Like I stated earlier, it's barrels of fun being able to physically crouch and weave through tight spaces and duck behind cover before a robot sees you. The objectives aren't that hard to complete and do have a decent enough of variety, from throwing a bomb out of a moving train to solving a bunch of key code puzzles by moving between elevator shafts. Each section really requires you to examine your environment to the fullest, and I really love how this game uses VR to its max capacity. Reading notes on clipboards, overlooking skylines only to teleport to them moments later, shooting a bow and arrow from a long distance directly into a robot's exoskeleton, the list goes on and on. It has a really nice gameplay loop, and it never gets old seeing oil explode from a robot as you lodge a sharp object directly into their exoskeletal frame. Music in the game is also very good. It's jazzy and smooth, often adding to the spy-like feel each level provides. The game's length is, however, a bit on the short side, clocking in around 4 to 5 hours. However, the developers are adding tons of replay value with custom game sliders, which should enhance replay playthroughs. Which brings me to my question: is Budget Cuts 2 a good VR game? In my opinion, most definitely. Not only is it a huge improvement over the first game, I really enjoyed the level design and it just did wonders for me. The OST was very well made and the content offered throughout was, in my opinion, worth the price of admission. However, there are a couple of nagging issues I do have with the game, which some of them do seem to be getting patched out. However, some were kind of interesting bugs. For me, I often found the robots to be a little bit on the overbearing side. I felt like they detected me for some time sometimes little to no reason, even though I swear I was crouching at certain points or hiding behind cover, but they just kind of found me. It doesn't seem to be too big of an issue moving throughout the game, but it did get a little annoying at times. One of the biggest issues I did have, however, was the game not tracking when I was completing objectives. It actually caused me to restart a mission, which was really frustrating knowing how long missions can last in games like this. However, despite those issues, I felt like the game overall did a very good job of keeping the experience fun, wholesome, and overall enjoyable. For $30, I feel like Budget Cuts 2 is most definitely worth the game's price of admission, and it was a ton of fun exploring the ins and outs of the product at hand. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it a nice 8 out of 10. Budget Cuts 2 was a really good time, and if you are looking for a fun single-player VR adventure-style game with some stealth elements, I highly recommend you guys pick this up on PC VR. Here's hoping for a Quest release sometime in 2020 or 2021. Shoutouts once again to Fastravel for providing me with a review key, and that's going to do it for this first impression / review of Budget Cuts 2. If you enjoyed the video, I really recommend that you leave a like down below and comment to help boost me into the algorithm and keep seeing content like this afloat in your recommended feed. It does benefits to not only this channel, but also benefits you as well. For the comment, what VR games are you looking forward to as we approach the beginning of 2020? Any games you're looking forward to in particular? I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Right now, I'm really looking forward to the Boneworks Oculus Quest game. I've been playing through Boneworks recently. It's been an absolute blast. And of course, the Walking Dead Saints and the Sinners. I've seen a lot of gameplay and it looks absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to get my hands on this thing, and I'm really excited to see where the future of VR is going to go. And again, that's going to do it for this video, you guys. Thank you all once again for watching so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Peace.